Hello, 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 and welcome to another enriching episode of Creating Your Desired Life. Today, we're exploring our health and wellness journey. We're exploring ways to prioritize our self-care and achieve total wellness in our lives. So I want you to join us as we embark on this journey. I want to first begin, before I introduce our wonderful guests, begin with my story on my journey to health and wellness. And so it started several years ago, and probably about 12, maybe 13 years ago. I was approaching, and this isn't a story, by the way, that I used to share all of the time, but I'm now within the past year or so, I realized that people needed to hear my own story of health and wellness. But about 13 years ago, I was approaching a size 22, 24. Right now, you have to understand I'm very short, and I was struggling with standing up, and my knees began to really bother me. I remember I was sitting in church one Sunday, and I'm sitting down, and my husband was speaking. He said, "Can everyone stand?" And when I stood up, I struggled in standing up. I was in so much pain. And I thought at that moment, I can't live my life like that. Whenever I have grandkids, I want to be able to sit on the floor. I want to be able to run with them. I want to be able to play with them. And at the stage where I was, I could not do that. So I made an immediate appointment with my physician. And when I went to see him, of course, he said, you have a couple of choices. You can get a knee replacement because, your knees have a lot of pressure, or you can take, is it the cortisone shots or some type of shot? I think there was one that I would have to do every 3 months, or there's another type that I would have to do every 6 months. And of course, when you take the shots, they hurt. And so I took my first shot with him while I was in the office. And I took the 6-month shot because I said, there's no way I can do 3. I took the 6-month shot and I said, I'll see you in 6 months. But before I left, I said, what other choices do I have? And he began to explain. He said, you could always lose weight. He said, because for every pound that you weigh, that's 4 pounds on your knees. Man, when I began to think about that, for every pound that I weighed, that was 4 pounds on my knees. I'm short. I am 5'2". No, I'm sorry. I'm 5'1". 5'1". I forgot. And I thought, no wonder I'm in so much pain. I got into my car. And as I was driving home, I just began to cry, and I just began to talk to God, y'all. And I said, I cannot live my life like this. I need to be able that whenever I have grandchildren, and take note, at this time I had no grandchildren and none in the view. I said, but I just can't live like this. I want to be able to get down again on my knees. I want to be able to stand. I want to be able to play with them, run with them, do whatever necessary that I need to do with them. I wanted to be able to do that. So I made a decision that day that I would release my weight. I began to do some research, and I began to think about what will work best for me. And I just began to look at different videos, look at different people. I looked at Weight Watchers. I looked at a few other things, and I'm not going to tell you the name of what exactly I did because I'm not endorsing anything. Why? Because you have to look at what works for you, right? So I decided to do my research, and I picked a weight release plan that was very healthy. And I said, okay, I'm going to be 50 in April. And by the time I turn 50, I need to lose 50 pounds. And so, and really this was quite aggressive because the other thing is I wanted to lose this weight before I returned to the doctor because I was determined not to get another shot in my knees. I was determined that when I go to bed at night, I would not have to elevate my knees because I'm in so much pain. I was determined that I'm going to be able to walk, and that when I sit in church or I sit in my office or anywhere else I sit, I'm able to stand up without getting help or just really struggling to stand up. I was determined. So I said, listen, I'm going to have my last hooray around the holidays. And on my last hooray, yeah. I'm now on the holidays, not January 1st, because I wanted to eat on January 1st. But on January 2nd, I would begin my weight release. So I began to really shift how I saw myself, and I began to see myself on this pathways. Remember I said, and I say it all the time, that way if you can change your thoughts, you can change your life. I really began to shift my mindset, because when you're thinking about releasing weight or doing anything, you really have to begin to shift your mindset. So I began to shift my mindset. I began to see myself differently. And I began to say, okay, this is what I need to do. I began to do meal prepping beginning January 1st. And I started my release journey. And I did quite an aggressive one. I ate my 3 meals a day. I removed carbs out of my diet. I limit my carbs to just so much per day. And by the time my birthday's at the end of the month, I released more than 60 pounds, more than 50. It was 60 pounds that I released. And I went back to my doctor. I was feeling healthy. I was feeling invigorated. I was doing my 10,000 steps a day. I was working out and doing all of these different kinds of things. I was watching everything I ate. I removed dairy out of my diet. I took sodas out of my diet. I took, sugars out of my diet. And I began to just slowly do that. And then after I released, I got a nutritionist to really begin to work with me on eating healthy. In other words, I didn't want to release the weight and then go back. I wanted it to be a healthy lifestyle. I began to realize that my health and my wellness is my most important investment in me. And if I am not healthy, if I'm not doing well, then really what more can I do? See, I'm a firm believer that you're going to pay for your health either in the front or in the back. In other words, you can pay up front for it, or you're going to be paying in the back for it. Either way, you're going to pay. I decided I'm going to go ahead and pay it up front and do what was necessary for me to do to release the weight so I could feel better, so I could be healthier. And honestly, it really wasn't about, I just wanted to be skinny. It was not about that at all. I wanted my knees to be able to, I wanted less pounds on my knees. I wanted to be able to stand up. I didn't want to be in any more pain. And if that meant I needed to release 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 70 pounds, that is exactly what I was going to do. And I was going to take my time, and I was going to do whatever worked for me that was healthy, that I could maintain and sustain. And so from that day to this day, I have not regained any of my pounds. Yes, sometimes, because this is life, y'all, and sometimes the holidays come, you go on vacation, and my health will, my weight will go up and down, but I always knew when I was at my max. And I'll tell you one way I knew: my knees would say, my body would say, that's enough, no more cookies. That's enough. I know you're on vacation, but you don't need to eat that. But this is the other part of the healthy, that even when I was on my vacation, I still didn't go back to soda. I don't know the last day I had a soda. I still don't do creamer in my coffee or sugars or anything like that. And to this day, I still eat what I want. I just watch what I eat and I limit it. And I make sure that I'm reading the ingredients of what's in there, and I take care of my body, because I am my greatest investment, and I am determined to live a healthy life. And so today, I'm so honored to bring a very good friend of mine in as we explore together our health and wellness. We're going to explore ways to prioritize our self-care and achieve total wellness in our lives. This is really a part of creating your desired life. And I want to say, really, this is on the forefront when you really begin to think about it. So join me as with I like to say my esteemed guest, Rafika Williams. She is a BSN RN. She's a CEO with her extensive experience in healthcare and commitment. And she is one who supports total wellness. Today, in this episode, Rafika will provide invaluable insights and strategies for cultivating a healthy lifestyle. We're not talking about a quick fix, y'all. We're talking about a healthy lifestyle. And so today we're going to navigate through some encouraging messages as we reflect on our own wellness journey. I want you to really begin to reflect on your wellness journey and to consider how you can prioritize self-care and nurture your overall wellness, thereby living your life in design by creating your desired life. I want you also to share your thoughts and your experiences with me on social media on at Dr. Esther Graham, because I want to hear from you. And at the end of this episode, you'll get some more information on how you can share. I'd love to hear from you. So please join me as we welcome our guest today, Rafika Williams. Rafika, again, is a seasoned healthcare professional and the CEO of Comforting Hands Medical Staffing, where she empowers individuals to achieve their health and beauty goals through a holistic approach to wellness. This is from her extensive experience in healthcare and staffing and business management. Rafika will share her insights on prioritizing wellness and achieving total health. So listen, y'all, come on, put your hands together and let's welcome Rafika. Hello, Rafika. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad that you're here today. I know that I said a whole spiel about you, but I really want you to reintroduce yourself and begin by telling us your story of being on this path to health and wellness, because I want to say you didn't wake up one day and a light bulb hit you and say, oh, I'm going to do this. There
Right.
was a journey before you came here. So can you share just a little bit of that with our audience today?
Yes. So, like you said, I'm the CEO of Comforting Hands Medical Staffing, which is an agency here based out of New York. And it really supports anyone who is in need. So we support schools, we support medical facilities such as nursing homes, we support camps. So we're pediatrics to geriatrics, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I decided to start that was because I myself fell in love with being a nurse. I fell in love with nursing. I fell in love with helping people, being supportive of people in their needs. And this allows me to have an extensive support system, and it broadened my reach. And so it allowed me, one person, to become, many people out there helping other people. And from there, I became CEO of Activate Total Wellness, which is where I say me and you really kind of aligned. Is where, I support people with their wellness goals, activating their total wellness and really supporting them with understanding what total wellness is, because it's not just about physical health. It's about much more than that. There's a spectrum that, equates to wellness. And I think the more people understand that, the better off they will be.
Yeah. I think what's really great about that, especially I think what I loved about you as we connected, it's been over a year ago now, I believe.
Yes.
So it's over a year ago, is that when you begin to talk about wellness, you don't speak of it as a one and done. Like, this is ongoing, and you really also speak to our mindset shifts when we begin to look at health and wellness. And what I also love is that you also really say this is especially important in the African American community.
It is.
Or the brown community, the Latino community as well. We often put our health and wellness on the back burner.
We do.
When it should not be.
Right, we do. I think we're just so used to moving in the now and
Yeah.
not really thinking about things for our future and how the things we do today will affect our tomorrow. And so, yes, mindset is the first place to start when you're thinking about health and wellness,
Yeah.
right? You talked about that earlier. Like, that's the thing, you had to switch, you had to change your mindset. You have to say to yourself, okay, what is it that I need to do in order for me to be better? And that starts with your mindset. If you don't switch that, then nothing else will change for you. And it doesn't matter if it's about health and wellness, it's about your career, it's
Yeah.
about, your
Yeah.
friendship. Mindset is the first thing that needs to shift.
Mindset is the first thing that needs to shift. Now, I remember a story that you told, not too long ago, that how before making the decision to become, if you don't mind, Nurse Ra,
Yeah.
right? That you thought, I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
What made you shift from being the lawyer, from saying, I'm going to be an attorney, to no, you know what? I'm going to go into healthcare.
So, my daughter's godfather really helped me with that mindset shift. He really played an intricate role in me becoming a nurse. I still was going to school to be an attorney. I was like, okay, I'll do this because I need to. I'm a young mom with a child, and,
Yeah.
this is going to support me in taking care of my child. But once I became a nurse, I realized that I loved it. Like, I loved taking care of people. I loved healthcare. I loved every aspect of it, what it did, like just putting a smile on someone's face, advocating for people, um, allowing other people to realize that they can advocate for themselves,
Yeah.
because oftentimes we get intimidated by healthcare workers. We get intimidated by doctors, by nurses. We allow them to make the decisions for us, and we don't ask enough questions. And so really what I am here for now is to advocate for Black and Brown communities and,
Yeah.
anyone who needs it, really. But I find that as a
Yeah.
Black woman, right, as an African American woman, there's a necessity now for people to have someone to advocate for them.
Yes. So true. Yeah, it's so true. So true. I think that, and to have someone, it's a necessity to have someone to advocate, and then also to have someone teach us even how to advocate for ourselves, teaching us, those questions that we should ask.
Right.
When we do go to the doctor, what are some of the questions I need to ask about my health and my wellness, so I could be knowledgeable and make the right decision? Tell me a little bit, when it comes to our wellness, what are some common misconceptions about wellness, and how can we overcome them?
Common misconceptions about
Oh
wellness.
yeah.
I
Oh
think that
yeah.
most people think that, like I said, I think most people think wellness is just about physical health.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times, if you ask somebody how they're doing, or as a nurse, when I ask people like, hey, how are you doing? Like, how's everything going for you? The first thing, well, I got my physical this year and I got my labs done,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
always a great thing, right? It's always a great thing. You should do that every year. You should be mindful of doing that. I know people who have not done it for years. But you should always know what's going on within your body. And so, like I said, wellness is a spectrum, but the first thing is your mental health, right? And
Yeah.
so mentally, you need to make sure you're well. Physically, you need to make sure you're well. Spiritually, you need to make sure you're well. Emotionally, you need to make sure you're well. So, oftentimes people kind of like don't think about all of these things. They don't think about the environments that they're in, the
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
they're around, the relationships that they have. And all of that equates to wellness.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. All of that equates to wellness, right? And then when we begin to look at the total wellness, right? Then then we could be in total wellness,
Absolutely.
then we could be and that's when we'll begin to say, look at our bodies. And I think for me, years ago, when I began, to release my weight, I also began to look into, like, how was I feeling about me?
Hmm. Exactly. And you also thought about your relationships because you
Oh
were
yeah.
thinking about your future, your grandchildren who are now here, right? And that you're able to do all the things that you set forth to do when
Yeah.
you made the mindset shift, when you decided that, okay, this is enough. I have to think about my relationships. I have to
Yeah.
think about myself. I have to think about what I'm doing currently for my health. How is that going to affect my
Yeah.
relationships in the future? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
all matters.
Yeah.
It's a spectrum of wellness that
Yeah.
then supports your total wellness.
Yeah, I love that. It's a spectrum of wellness. One of the things, and I believe you've touched on it. I know that there's some key components of total wellness, and um, I know you speak about the spectrum of wellness, which is so, in my opinion, so powerful when you think about the spectrum of wellness. How can we incorporate the spectrum of wellness into our daily lives?
I think most of the times we are incorporating the spectrum of wellness into our daily lives. We just don't think about
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I think most people think going to the gym is like the best way to be well. And it does help because it gives you endorphins, so it makes you happy, it makes you feel good, right? You're more energized, so that helps with your mental health, right? There's so many different things that working out can do, but you
Yeah.
also have to think about, okay, if I work out and then I go to a job that I hate, what is that
So
doing?
true.
You
Yeah.
know, what is that doing for me? If I work out or I take this walk, which is gonna like release all of these great things inside of me, right? And then I go home and I'm stressed, which then releases cortisol, right? Which is a fat hormone. Then what? What are you left with then? So you kind of have to make sure that there's some sort of balance. Everything is not going to be at 100, right? That doesn't necessarily equate to balance. Balance is just making sure that all parts of your life make
Yeah.
sense. Some will be elevated and some will be low, but if
Yeah.
they make sense and they all come together in a balanced way, that's total wellness.
That's total. What about, speak about stress? Because listen, here in the US, we are under a lot of stress. And let's face it, the stress affects our health and well-being. So can you speak to us a little bit about stress and how can we manage our stress, or can we manage our stress?
We can manage our
You
stress.
know?
I think, oftentimes for me, I'll speak to mine.
Yeah.
What helps me with stress is my spirituality, right? So everybody's management of their stress is going to be different. Some people, they need to go and they need to hit the gym or they need to take a
Yeah.
walk or they need to become
Yeah.
one with nature. And these are things I enjoy doing as well. But my spirituality is first. And
Yeah.
so me being able to come to my prayer rug, because I am Muslim, and being able to pray and make salat and really come to my prayer rug and talk
Yeah.
to God and have my personal relationship, which I
Yeah.
think all of us need to have a personal relationship to whatever our spirit is, connected to.
Right.
And mine's is Allah. And that
Yeah.
is what really keeps me grounded. That helps me to realize that oftentimes we're not in control of the things that we think we're in control of,
So
right?
true.
And that increases our stress levels because we're trying to control all these little things that we don't really sometimes even have control over. So controlling the things that you actually can control and releasing all of the rest of it can support, decreasing your stress levels.
Yeah.
So you have to first figure out what really resonates for you within that spectrum, because somewhere in that spectrum is what's going to support you with decreasing your stress.
Yeah.
Starting with really and I talked about this before on another platform, just journaling, writing things down sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes all you need to do is write it down. You write it down, you get it out of your mind and onto some paper, and you can kind of navigate it a little bit better. So to me, it depends, but really starting with maybe just buying yourself a journal. Buy a journal, write it down, become one with whoever you decide is the person that you need to become one with. Mine is God. And really just starting there. It doesn't have to be so big.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't have to be big. And I love what you said, your spirituality, because I think that's really a very firm and a firm foundation. I think that our spiritual life is really a solid, let's say, foundation that where we can build our health and wellness, we can really begin to create our desired life from that. And so I think that's really important. And, and whether your connection, as you go in nature and you're walking and you're doing, I walk, like the other day, I went for a walk. Why? Because I was feeling a level of stress. And so I went walking so I could breathe and I could just have that time to, for lack of a better word, just woosah, and when I'm walking, I'm prayer walking.
Yeah.
you know, and I'm having conversations with God. And I love how you said what works for you. What can you do, you know, to relieve that? Because in the world that we're living in, it's so fast paced, and it is so necessary that we can release stress, because stress comes on several levels. And what I have discovered is that many times we may say, well, I don't feel stressed, but your body does. And
Yeah.
eventually it shows up.
We internalize stress, and most of us don't even realize that that's what we're doing. We walk through the world and we're thinking everything is fine. And you hear these stories about people who have these like massive heart attacks, and they're like, but this person was going to the gym all the time and they were fine.
Yes.
But
Yes.
they have a high stress job. They go
Yeah.
home and they're the breadwinners or the main supporters of their home,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't know what stress lives in someone.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that, you know, as an individual, as individuals, that we're ensuring that we're taking care of ourselves first, because we can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. You know, when you just said, you know, you get the high stress job. I have a cousin, and he passed away years ago, but he was healthy, looked healthy, young, you know, and doing all these things in a very high stress job. Came home from work, laid down, had a massive heart attack, and that was it.
And you know, oftentimes that is all it takes. And we're seeing more and more people in their 20s, 30s, 40s dying from heart attacks. And we're like, why is this happening? What is happening? But a lot of us have all of this stress that we're internalizing that we think is nothing, and we're doing nothing about it, right? Most of us aren't taking those walks. Like I said, that does support stress levels. We're not connected spiritually to anything. So there is no spiritual grounding, right? And that too allows us to release things and allow us to internalize things that we have no control over. You know, when you are connected to spirit, when you are connected to God, God allows you to recognize that you don't have to take everything on yourself, right? You don't have to do that. But we do it as humans, we do it. But we have to recognize that our bodies can only take so much. That'll come out as high blood pressure.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things, you know, happening to us. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, we do. Let me ask you a question, and maybe you answered it and I missed it, but is there a way that we could recognize before the heart attack or before the high blood pressure or anything like that, that we're internalizing stress? Is there a way that we could recognize it? Or
I mean, I think that most people do recognize it. We are the masters of ignoring the things that bother us the most. I know that when I'm under stress, you know, I can feel it like in my body. You get tension, you know.
Definitely.
You know,
I know I can too.
Yeah, you can feel it. And so
okay.
Just recognizing that, you know, okay, this is bothering me. Like I can feel it in my body. You know, sometimes just simple headaches. Headaches all the time. You know, tension in your shoulders and in your back. You know, those type of things. But I think that most people, we already recognize when we're in a stressful situation or we have stress. We just decide that this is something that we have to do or somewhere we have to be, which is not true.
Yeah. I love what you said, that we do recognize it. We know it. We just chose to ignore it. I like that, because that's so true. That's true. I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, you're right. We choose to ignore. We know when our body lets us know when there's a level of stress, and we choose. And so when we choose to ignore it, then we're not choosing a healthy lifestyle. And we don't have, there's some things that we just don't have to do. We just don't. I know the other day when I think it was yesterday when I did go on my walk, I began to walk and I said, you know, I don't have to, I'm not putting up with this. And so meaning that let me just release it and put it there. And so one of my things I've really honestly been working on doing as we face the challenges going on is saying, okay, let me talk to God about this. And when I have the conversation, let me take it in, let me release it and go on, because this right now, I can't control it.
Right. We have to learn how to do it though. You know, it's that old saying, let go and let God, right?
Yeah.
Let go and let God. But when you do that, you can't then question anything that comes after that. You have to let it go. You have to say, you know what, I'm giving this to you and I'm going to release it from myself. There's nothing I can do more about it. And then you have to move forward and you have to allow God to work.
and allow them to work. And then as you release it, what I find works for me is I'll just sit and then I'll just begin to do deep breaths, that deep breathing to just continue that release.
Absolutely.
And I find that really, really works as well. As I release and I'm having conversation, I'm taking my deep breaths and I'm just releasing it. I love it. I love it.
My 6-year-old is doing that currently, just so
What's
everybody
that?
knows. If my 6-year-old can realize when he's under stress,
Yeah.
and he sits and he breathes, he takes deep breaths in and out to relax himself, to ground himself. He is 6 years old, and if he knows to do that, then we can do it as well.
We could definitely do it. But I love y'all. Are you hearing what she's saying? She said her 6-year-old. That also lets us know that our children are under stress as well. And so what we have to do is, as we recognize it in ourselves, let's also recognize it in our children. Listen, I'm an early childhood educator. So listen, let's recognize it in our children. And then let's begin to teach them to manage their stress at their age. In other words, let's teach them to deep breathe. Let's teach them to stop and take deep breathing. Many times, even in our early learning environment, if a child is screaming, we'll say, let's take a deep breath. Let's calm. And so that teaches them to calm down and to handle. So that's really an excellent way. And let's say the first way of how you can manage your stress.
Right, absolutely. And you're teaching emotional intelligence at the same time. So there's all these things that I just feel like as a culture, we need to be more cognizant. If our children know it from young, then as they get older, we've already changed the mindset, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when we're talking about mindset, I've had people come to me and they say to me, well, diabetes runs in my family. And hypertension runs in my family. And I'm no, it doesn't. But the mindset does. So, the eating habits do, those things that do cause those types of diseases, because type 2 diabetes is choice. It's not about your body and hereditary. It's about choice. Hypertension, 9 times out of 10 is choice. It's not about your genealogy line. Has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you really have to learn. What I hear you saying is you have to choose to take care of yourself. You have to choose to be in total wellness.
Absolutely,
it's a choice. And if depending on the choice you make, you'll pay on the front end
or the back
end, but you will pay.
Absolutely. Now or you pay later, like you said from the beginning.
Yeah, you will pay. I prefer to let me pay now. Let me do those things, because really when you pay now, it's less expensive.
Exactly. And health is the real wellness, right? I mean, you got to think health is wealth, right? So if you're not healthy, it doesn't matter what you have in this world, all the monetary things, all the people that you meet, all of that means nothing if you're not healthy. Because if you live to 60 and you could have lived to 80 or 90, right? And you could have
that's real talk.
You could have really enjoyed your family. You could have enjoyed the things that you worked so hard for, because most of us were working in a job and we're going to work all these years. And then we're going to have about 10 years, maybe 5 years to sit and really be okay. And that's the people who don't die before they retire.
Yeah.
Right? Because of all the stress, because of the way they're eating, because of the non-movement, So we have to think about these things. I mean, even dementia can be linked to increased blood sugar levels. So we got to think about these things.
All of those things. And I honestly think that's really when I talk about creating your desired life or living a life by divine, it's inclusive of all of that. And even when I told, my story with my doctor and I'd made a decision, part of that is that I don't want to die young. I want to see my grandloves grow up. I have 4 now. I want to see them, grow up. I want to be there. And part of that is ensuring I'm very well. Now, take note, I'm not deprived of anything.
Right.
Because sometimes we think, well, I really like this and I don't want to, I'm not deprived of anything.
Yeah. I don't think that that's about, really, honestly, nobody's saying give up all of the things.
Yeah, exactly.
Times, right? What we're saying is in moderation, right? I like to have a slice of cake here and there. I'm not a sweet eater. I'm not a dessert person.
Yeah,
but that some people are. And if that is you, you don't deprive yourself so then you overindulge when you get it. you have it when you really want it and you don't
Yeah.
overindulge. That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's exactly it. I know I'm not a sweet person. But I love my chocolate chip cookies. So every once in a while, I want to eat a chocolate chip cookie. Every once in a while, I want something sweet, but I've removed so much sugar out of my life. I don't do sugar. So when I do eat something sweet, Rafika, I have to do it in moderation
mhm.
because I can't, I can't do the sweet.
Yeah,
I'm a
and it's
wine
too much.
drinker. I can't do sweet wines. I'm a coffee drinker. I don't put sugar in my coffee. I don't put creamer. But there was a time.
Where you did, right? Where you did.
Oh, yeah, where I poured it in. And that was a part of removing some unhealthy habits out of my life so I could remain healthy, and enjoy
Right.
my life and enjoy my life. So then tell me, how does self-care, and you've talked about it a bit, but let's go a little bit deeper. How does self-care contribute to the overall health and well-being? And maybe what we need to define as self-care, because self-care means something different to everyone. Many times I hear people say, oh, I had a self-care day. I say, oh, what's your self-care day? Oh, I went and got my nails done. I got a mani and a pedi, did that. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But that's only really a small fraction.
Right, it is. It's a piece of it because
It's a
beauty and
piece.
feeling good about yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
also does matter when you're
Yeah.
thinking about wellness, right? So I
Yeah.
would never tell somebody like getting your hair done doesn't matter because it matters
Oh,
to
it
me.
matters. It matters.
I gotta get my hair done, okay,
Me
all the
too.
time. So, but I will say like my nails are not a priority for me, right?
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't matter for somebody. It may be, right? But when we're talking about like really self care, we're talking about making sure that you're thinking of yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't think of themselves. And for me, I take time and I go out on hikes because I love that. Again, I said I'm big on spirituality, and going out and being in nature really helps me connect to God even more. But it also gives you your exercise. It also gives you it makes you feel a freedom. I talked about, just making sure that I take time for me. I have a 6-year old, I have a almost 26-year old, I have, a lot going on. I'm running these businesses. And so I have to make sure I take the time out to cater to my own needs and
Yeah.
not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
I think also,
Self-care isn't selfish.
yes. And it's okay to be selfish if it's going to help you to ensure that you're helping others.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be selfish to take care of yourself and put yourself first, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to
Yeah.
put yourself first so that you can then be present for others. It's the airplane story that everybody talks about, when those airbags drop down, you have to give yourself oxygen first and then you help other people. You
All
can't
the time. All the time.
die. So
Yeah. All the time. So tell me, what are some strategies then would you recommend to the audience on prioritizing our self-care? What would you tell? How do we do that?
prioritizing self-care to me looks like, and this is to me, and talked about earlier, everybody's perception of what is self-care to them is different. But journaling is something that I think is very important. It allows you to get thoughts out. It allows you to, really know and recognize what's bothering you. Or even if
Mhm.
you have like big ideas, just getting them down on paper, it helps you to even like increase your chances of it happening. So
Yeah.
you really need to like get a book. I have a spiral notebook. That's what I first wrote down my first big dream in. And I mean, we're talking 2013. And I still have that spiral notebook because everything I wrote in that book actually has happened. So, I think that first you start with journaling, getting things out of your mind, because oftentimes that's where we keep things. And
Yeah.
even when we talk about things with friends, we don't always tell people everything, which you shouldn't, right? And that's why you start with your connection with God, you journal, you do the things that are going to help you to get things out. One of my
Yeah.
other big things now is me going to get acupuncture and cupping. And I do that to release energy. It really helps me to move energy.
Acupuncture and
Cupping.
cupping. Oh yeah. Love cupping. Yeah.
Yes.
Cupping is good.
Absolutely. It helps you
Yeah.
to release energy, move energy. It helps you also with inflammation that's in the body that's trapped. So, there's a lot of different things that I look at for self care,
Yes.
that I think about for myself. And I do take the time. And I mean, even if you're a single mom with children and they can be young, you put your kids to sleep. And maybe even if you don't, you tell your children, like, hey, mommy needs 15 minutes. And you go in that room and you take the time you need, whether that's you sitting quietly, whether that's you reading a book, maybe a chapter out of a book you dedicate. You say to yourself, I'm committing myself to reading a chapter every night out of a book to help me to relax my brain, to help me to get a better, get better rest. Those are the first things that you should really do. I'm really big with IV hydration. That's what we do at Activate Total Wellness. So I have a lot of different things that I do with that as well. We offer B12, vitamin D, things to really support you with your mood, to support you with sleep overall. And so I think that the first step really truly is to think about, like you said from the beginning, your mind. Your mind is the most powerful place. That's what really dictates how you move through the world and really dictates how you are able to do things for yourself.
Yeah, so true. It leads me to the I promised the last and final question, but before let me just add. Listen, y'all, Rafika comes down, Nurse Ra comes down, and I get my IV hydration, my B12, my D, and everything else. And I have not been sick this entire season. Winter normally. At least one time I get sick, I'm in, I'm down, because I travel a lot.
Absolutely, you do.
And I have not gotten sick, and I'm very faithful to my IV hydration, and everything else I do. So listen, she's going to tell us how you can connect and find out what she does. And even if you're not in her state in New York, tell her where you are. And if she can't come to you, she will connect you with a network of people who are excellent in what they do, because you can't go to everybody for high IV hydration. So let me ask you, you've already given us some things of how we can start, but one more thing to that person who says, I hear everything you're saying. What's the one thing I could do to start today?
The one thing that you can do to start today is I would tell people, again, your mind. I don't care what kind of book you have. I don't care if you could take a piece of loose leaf paper, okay? But you need to start writing things down. You really need to start taking things that are internalized and writing them down, even if you're just talking about how your day was today. Yeah. How was my day? What did I do today that I could do differently tomorrow to help and support me to have a better overall day, right? Like I want for things to shift for me now, but everything is gradual. Nothing happens overnight, right? Even weight loss, it takes time.
It's never one and done.
It's never one and done. And you have to formulate habits. And honestly, it takes your mind 3 years to catch up to your body. So you can lose weight and you'll see people and it looks like they're yo-yo dieting or they're on this roller coaster with their weight. But that's because it takes your mind absolutely 3 years to catch up with your body. So if I lose weight in a year, I have to maintain that. I have to create habits and I have to really ensure for the next 3 years that I maintain this weight so that my mind can say, okay, I'm comfortable at this size.
Yeah. Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. Good stuff. Nurse Ra, how can anyone reach you?
Okay, so you guys can reach me on all social media platforms at Activate Total Wellness. It's ACTIV and the number 8 Total Wellness. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. You guys can start following our pages. We do frequent Maryland. We frequent Delaware, and we sometimes even stop in Philly. So we're based in New York. If you are anywhere in our area, you can reach out to me. Phone number 914-703-7064.
And everything will be posted on the Creating Your Desired Life website. And listen, y'all, and when you do reach out to her, tell her that you heard about her on this show. I thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. Powerful, powerful conversation. Listen, everyone, she shared so much with us. I want you now to take the time and reflect about what nuggets that you can take away. And if you don't have a journal, get your journal right now, get a piece of paper and write down those nuggets. Absolutely. Write it down and begin to think about it. process it, internalize it, so you can live it out. As you take just a minute to just reflect, go ahead and take a very deep breath and just begin to reflect as we thank Rafika again for joining us this week. Self-reflection is just taking a minute to pause for the cause. It's taking a minute to take a deep breath and just getting in tune with who you are and making that decision. This is what I want to do in my life. And again, thank you so much, Rafika, for joining us. We have had a powerful conversation today. We have a question, and our question is, I just had it with me, y'all. Here it is. And really, it's perfect. I believe the question has already been answered in Ask Dr. Esther. And Nurse Rafika has already answered the question. It says, what can I do to live a healthy and productive lifestyle? And when you listen to this segment, I believe you've already had the answer, that you just, first of all, change your mindset, right? Change your mindset. That's the first thing that you can do to live a productive and healthy mindset. And let me add, realize that you are worthy. You are worthy, and you are your greatest investment. So invest in yourself and begin to take small steps and realizing that you are worthy in living a productive, healthy lifestyle. Change your mindset on how you see yourself, and then you'll begin to add some things into you. And as you listen to this segment, re-listen to it again, share it with someone, and you'll hear those steps on how you can begin to live a productive and healthy lifestyle. Our quote for the week, y'all. Oh no, I'm sorry. Not the quote yet. Let's do a celebration. So what are we celebrating today? I believe the celebration, we're still celebrating the weight release. Let's see. I see here that Julie, I believe we celebrated her before, but Julie says that she's on her weight release program, and she has lost 8 pounds as of today, and she's celebrating herself. And she is also, I'm just reading my notes here, y'all. She is also not just releasing the weight, but she is looking at moving forward in increasing her healthy lifestyle. And so I guess the question would be for Julie, how are you doing that? How are you moving forward in increasing your healthy lifestyle? So please take a second and share that with us, and I will share it with everyone else. What is our quote for the week? Our quote for the week. Are you ready? Health is like money. We never have a true idea of its value until we lose it. And Josh Billings said that. Health, y'all listen, we've talked about this this entire episode. You've heard us say it in different ways. Our health is like money. We never have a true idea of its value until we lose it. Remember this. If you don't, for this entire week, that your health is like money. We never understand the true value of it until we lose it. Make a determination that you will not lose your health. Make a determination that you will understand the value of your health, that if there's anything that needs to be redesigned, reset in your health, that you are going to do it. Listen, as we prepare to leave you today, I want to encourage you to connect with me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure that you connect with me on Facebook and on LinkedIn at Esther Graham or dresther.com. The information will be posted in all of the links and online. And also, if you have not registered for our soiree in June. Lost my thought for a minute. In June 27th, 28th, and 29th in Wilmington, Delaware at the Doubletree Hotel. We will be launching the website for it on soon. And so it's launched right now. So make sure that you purchase your tickets. Don't wait. Space is limited. You want to be there. It is a time of resetting, rejuvenating, redesigning. It's all a part of creating your desired life. We're going to be touching on the framework of living a life by design. We've got phenomenal people, great networking, powerful women. And it will also be a time of celebration. Make sure that you're there. We'll have the Triumphant Mall where you can shop. We'll have vendors. We'll have everyone there because it is your time to re-up, to redesign, to recalibrate, to rediscover. It's your time to take your superwoman cape off and just be. So I cannot wait to see you at the soiree in June 27th, 28th, and 29th in Wilmington, Delaware. I love y'all. I appreciate you. Thank you again to Rafika Williams for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your week and make sure you take the time to invest in you and in your health and your wellness. Create your desired life. See you again next week.